This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN Network. And joining me right now is Brandon Taylor. He is the president and COO of OneSoft Solutions, a publicly traded company. The symbols are OSS on the TSX Venture and OSS.IF on the OTCQB. With that, Brandon, always good to see you, man. Thank you for joining.
You too. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you back. So last time we did an interview together, it was funny. We were just talking offline that it seemed like we actually did this way more recently than we published this one, but we actually published this one on March 3rd, 2021. So it's been a little bit, and so we'd love to get some highlights from the company from the last, I guess, what is it, 4 or 5 months, something like that. 6 months.
Yeah. So we've had, like you and I were just talking about, it seems like it was more recent than that, but since then, right, lots of updates that we should talk about that are probably pretty significant, and I'll keep it kind of at the high level. In April, we signed a teaming agreement, a technology sharing agreement with C-FER Technologies, which is a Canadian research organization. Actually, it's owned by the government and it's operated through Alberta Innovates. They've been in oil and gas for like 30 years, doing a bunch of research. We signed a technology sharing agreement with them where they've built probabilistic risk models. There's 9 core threats that typically are found on pipelines and that pipeline operators have to adhere to. We're embedding those into our solution. We signed that at the end of April. We've kicked off a private preview with 3 of our customers that are actively engaged in that. And then just last Friday, which is kind of good timing on this interview, is that our latest release included 2 of the 9, and they're actually in client instances now. And we're meeting with them weekly, and they're going to be able to run those and help us kind of prove them out. And then we'll work on the remaining 7. Our kind of objective is to get all 7 in. And what that's exciting about from a OneSoft perspective is that's a consumption economic model for us, meaning it'll show up in the solution. And if operators want to use those, we can get additional revenue from that. It'll be a consumption economic model. So super excited about that. At a macro level, why we're really excited is there really aren't many solutions in the world that have kind of a combined holistic view of pipeline integrity that incorporates risk as just part of your normal workflow. So we're doing that. Not only just get your regulatory kind of government, industry kind of conditions, these time-dependent things, but the entire risk across your entire pipeline will now happen out of the solution, which is super exciting from that perspective.
Very good. So, I don't know if you follow some of the FinTwit crowd, but it seems like, oil and gas and just that sector, I mean, it's been beaten down. It hasn't really been discussed all that much. It's been overlooked, especially with, all the ESG stuff going on out there. But it seems like it's starting to get a little bit more attention. So, I mean, have you been seeing some of the same things? Have some of the conversations you have with some of your customers starting to, go down the pike a little bit further? Like, all right, let's go. Let's get everything going. I mean, what's been the conversations like?
We have had those, and just Monday we announced we just signed on probably one of the largest pipeline operators as far as miles operated in the world, right? So it's an energy leader within the space in the U.S. And we're really excited that project's been kicked off. We're actively going through the process right now. So lots of, it seems like there's a lot more uptick, and that, digital transformation is still really happening. We're working with a lot of operators, doing a lot of production trials, all of that. The cycles, we're starting to kind of get that threshold. I think that'll put us over a little over 100,000 miles. So we're getting a lot of traction from that perspective. I'm quite excited about that from that perspective.
Brandon, what would you say is the biggest inflection point that when you think about what would take the company from where you are today to maybe that next stage in its evolution, what in your mind has always been that, at least at this point in the company's life cycle?
Yeah. So from our perspective, there's multiple variable inputs into that. We think from an industry perspective, adoption, if you look at the curve in software in general, we've got a lot of the innovators, those early. Now we're actually pulling in early majority clients. This last one represented kind of that across the chasm. So just adoption and word of mouth within industry is really starting to occur probably more rapidly than it had, in our early days, right? So that's happening. Where we have internal development. We've spent about a little over a year working on new user experience. So it just streamlines the solution. So not only from an onboarding, but helps us scale the solution kind of like down the tier. So that's one of the things that we're working on. We're going to continue our partner efforts as far as bringing partner organizations that provide services to pipeline operators at the lower scale, and to try to adopt those tiers. That's when we really think we can scale the solution, and we're seeing traction in that front.
Very good. So Brandon, before I let you, sorry.
One more thing I should probably mention is, and from the time that you and I chatted last, we signed our very first Canadian operator. So, that's gonna help us basically kind of get the regulatory stuff there, and then start opening up the Canadian market. So that's really exciting from us as well.
Very good. Well then, Brandon, before I let you go here today, from what you can tell us, and I ask this question each time, but let's we got to get the new update here. So, what would you say are some of the company's value catalysts now for the rest of this year, 2021, going into 2022?
So one of our value we have 3 of them, and we just had a customer work. So we bring all of our customers in H1 and H2, and it's kind of a planning session. We just did that on Wednesday of this week, actually. So the 3 core things that we're going to wrap out the year on are risk. We're going to incorporate that. We're hyper focused on that. We have customers helping us with that. The next thing on our roadmap from that perspective is that we're doing internal corrosion. So we're bringing a bunch more data into SIM, and we're working with that. We've actually hired a product manager for that. And then this new user experience. Those are kind of the 3 core things through this year. And then we want to be in a position where at least on 2 of those, internal corrosion and risk, we can start framing those to a go-to-market strategy.
And Brandon, with that, where can our audience go and find more information on OneSoft?
You can go to www.OneSoft.CA.
All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update.
All right. Thanks, Robert.